Hi, my name is Jacob Clemens. I serve as the director of the Marvin Center for Student Leadership here at Bowling Green State University. In my role, I get to work with a lot of phenomenal student leaders who are doing really great things in our community. In addition, I get to have conversations with our alumni who are creating positive change and leading public good in their careers and in their communities. I wanted to share one such conversation with you with a former student of mine, Dr. Antonio Smith. Antonio and I first met in the fall of 2009 when he was a sophomore here at BGSU and a scholar in the Sidney A. Ribeau President's Leadership Academy. Here on campus, Antonio was an SI leader and a tutor. He was also in an organization called the Black Intellects Group. After graduating in the May of 2012, Antonio went on to medical school at Wayne State University. Here is my conversation with Antonio, who I believe is leading the public good. So Dr. Antonio Smith, so good to see you. If you could briefly tell us what you're up to right now, what you're doing in your day-to-day life.
So I just graduated from Wayne State University, their residency program, where I was stationed at Detroit Medical Center. And now I'm actually starting my first hospitalist job. I'm in Southern Indiana. It's a small town called Vincennes, and I'm working at Good Samaritan Hospital. So I just finished my first week 2 weeks ago, and today I actually finished my Board of Internal Medicine exam. So that was pretty nice to put behind me. So
yeah, congratulations. That's exciting. So thinking back to your time as a student at BGSU, can you please share a moment or an experience while as a student that was particularly impactful and helped you become the person you are today?
Yeah, it's funny you ask me that, especially coming from you. I'd say my most impactful experience was being in your office that first year. I think it was right after Christmas break. I want to say I had a 2.9 GPA, and I already had the letter from Julie Snyder saying, like, you fulfilled the requirements for your scholarship, but this is not what we talked about. And I remember just like my heart sank when I had that that moment, because it was embarrassing, and it was the first time I felt like somebody really held me accountable for my actions. And then coming into your office, I remember you telling me about your experience working with medical students and pre-med students in Cleveland, I believe. And you straight up told me, like, I've worked with these guys, and if you're gonna continue to have grades like this, you might want to pick a new profession, because this is not what they're looking for. And that moment is when things just kind of shifted for me. And I realized, like, hey, I have to make some changes. I have to do some soul searching and figure out exactly how I'm going to get myself out of this hole. So I would say that was the most impactful, because after that, my GPA went from, that 2.9 to about a 3.8 average after that. And I really think I held that moment kind of close to me, and it would constantly replay as I was studying and going to the library and going to parties I may have, or before going to parties that I may not have, needed to go to. It's like, all right, Jacob said I need to get myself together. So I would say that was probably one of my most impactful moments, for sure.
Yeah, I clearly remember that moment, you sitting there. And definitely proud of all the hard work you've done since then, and you definitely earned everything you've achieved thus far, and very, very proud of you.
I appreciate it.
Kind of a fun question. What's your favorite place or location here at BGSU?
So I think everyone says the Union, but I'd say my favorite place, honestly, is the 50-yard line of the football stadium. So that was during our summer program. It was me, Kenny, Curtis, a few other people snuck out there and just kind of hung out on the 50-yard line, did some stargazing, hung out. just chopped it up. And I'd say that's probably my favorite place. And I've been there a few other times since then on more of a reflective type of basis, but I think that would be my favorite place to be in BG.
Yeah, that is a really good location on campus. Very iconic.
Right, especially at night. It's quiet. You know, the moon is like right above you, the stars. So I'd say that would, exactly.
Yeah. So I work with the Marvin Center for Student Leadership. A lot of the work we do is grounded in values and people's core values as a leader. And so I'm curious, what core values guide your life?
That's a tough question. I'd say respect, resilience, servant leadership, and probably wisdom. And I'll say those four because, you know, respect, I think you really have to live your life by that golden rule. You know, you want to treat others the way you would like to be treated. And it takes some, you know, real compassion and empathy to live life like that. And so, you know, considering others' needs before yours, I think is very important. And that kind of goes alongside servant leadership too. I mean, one of the, I guess, principles that I've been coming across quite a bit is the value you put out into the world is the value that comes back to you. And so you really have to think about what type of value you're contributing to the people around you, because ultimately that energy comes right back. I'd say wisdom, because as far as wisdom is concerned, the way I look at wisdom is this: when you come across certain circumstances, you don't formulate an emotional response right away. And it allows you to think about the outcomes and to be able to maneuver yourself to be successful, even in moments where you don't feel like there's a favorable outcome for you. So it allows you to kind of break down what went wrong and how to troubleshoot that process. You really have to think deeply about that too. And I'd say, what was the last one? Resilience, of course, being able to bounce back when life knocks you down, and being able to pick yourself back up is important.
Very much so. So you've been a doctor in a global pandemic. Can you share a little bit about what that experience has been like for you?
So it's interesting because in Detroit, we were hit pretty hard. I'd say that a lot of individuals were, whether it was the news and constantly seeing every time you go online, there's the COVID-19 like sticker or button, and the world tracker seeing how many cases are surging. And so folks were very scared, and rightfully so. But it caused a lot of individuals to delay getting evaluated until they were very, very ill. And I remember just seeing a lot of unfavorable outcomes because of that. And as we learned more about, what was going on, I think people started to put their trust back into the healthcare field and come in and get checked out, get tested, and get the care they need. I'd say that one of my colleagues, I think, had just a very striking experience that he went through, where he was talking to a patient that was going home with oxygen, and of course they never had oxygen before, so this is a new type of therapy for them. And it takes being that ill, going home, you need your family support, someone that can bring you food or check on you, make sure you're having daily fluid and food intake, and taking your medication. So a lot of times before we send patients home, we're talking to family members just to make sure that support is there and giving them the counseling and addressing any needs. So he had a family where the patient went back home, and he said before he sent her home, he just felt like something wasn't right, and he just made sure that he kept her phone number. And he called her after one of his shifts, and she had an empty fridge, and her family was so afraid to check on her that she had gone a few days without eating anything. So he took it upon himself to go, as he was going grocery shopping, but he took it upon himself to go get some food for her and drop it off at her house to make sure that she actually had some food to eat, in the coming days of her recovery. So it was, I would say that it took a lot out of people, but it also allowed people to find something deep within themselves that they wouldn't have otherwise discovered. So it's been a humbling experience, but all in all, this is what I signed up for. So, I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Opportunity to live out your values in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, it's been a big challenge for all of us, really. But we all have a part to play in this whole thing. So, it's teamwork.
So, what piece of advice might you give or share with a current BGSU student?
Oh, so there's a few, but I'd say having that self accountability piece is very crucial. And the earlier you start to hold yourself accountable for your actions, the easier it is to make sure that you're successful, at that high level. So, a lot of times when folks, hit or find failure, or, they have a setback, it's easy to build that emotional response that, I mentioned before. But it's important to kind of move past that and see what role you played in that whole process to figure out how you can get yourself out of that. Like I remember going through, writing. I was struggling with writing as a first year. I mean, I was struggling with everything, but I remember having to put myself in, instead of just saying, "Oh, I'm a terrible writer," or "I'm terrible at calculus," like I made sure that I was at the writing center, was at the math center. I hope those things are still there because that was what got me through for sure. So, putting myself in those buildings and asking questions, not being afraid to be vulnerable and saying I don't know, and seeking help and assistance from someone else that has that talent or ability was important. So, and it also allowed me. You started to see more familiar faces in those areas, and I realized like these are the people I need to surround myself with. These are the folks that want the same things I want out of life. So, that's how I started building my support system with as far as my friends were concerned. So, they say, whatever your closest friends are, they can determine how successful you are. So I really do believe in that. I'd say the other thing too is a lot of us have this New Year's resolution type of mindset where we think that we're going to do this whirlwind of change in a very short period of time. And it's not really feasible. And there was a book I came across recently, James Clear, Atomic Habits. And he has a much different approach where he talks about that, just getting 1% better every day and making small, measurable changes that you can scale over time. And that is very important because it is these tiny habits that we tend to overlook that are the things that make people very successful. So I'd say those are the two most important things I would advise people
on. Those are definitely good pieces of advice. And I can see as you're talking about those are definitely pieces of advice that you embodied during your at least time at BGSU as a student as well. And I think in a large part play a role of you being where you are today.
Definitely.
BGSU is a public university for the public good. As a graduate of this university, what ways have you contributed to the public good or hope to do in the future?
So I'd say that through mentorship and teaching were probably the two areas where I contributed the most. So in my time in BG, I was heavily involved in, you know, SI leaders, that program with chemistry. I also did some work with uh, I forget the department, but I did some work with the organic chemistry course, doing some tutoring with that. And being part of the NHSRC community at Offenhauer, just being in that area, you were constantly around individuals who were going through classes that, you know, I had already went through. So it was easy for me to kind of give back or reach back and teach those people what I learned. And, you know, I'd say those were probably my biggest contribution in BG. And going into medical school and where I am now, being in residency, it's almost like that same process all over again. As soon as you make it to the next level, you are immediately working with people that are coming up behind you just 1 year. So I found myself being able to mentor people and being able to teach what I learned and some of the pitfalls I experienced, you know, how I can help them get past those. And so I'd say teaching and mentorship probably would be my biggest contributors.
Okay. And I think my final question is, Antonio, what do you hope your legacy will be? What do you hope when it's all said and done, people will say about you?
So I hope that people, it's a tough question, but I hope people see that I was willing to go to bat for them. And as I went along life, I wasn't just, you know, stepping on the little guy, but I was actually working to bring people to where I was. So that same guy, James Clear, he mentioned the one-step rule as far as being, you don't have to be like eons, you know, or be eons ahead of people, or be, you know, a whole multitude of success ahead of the people that you help. You just have to be one step ahead and be willing to contribute that piece of yourself to their personal success. So I say that's what I hope, that people see that I'm here for them. I'm willing to go to bat for you, and I'm very much personally interested in your success.
That's awesome. Well, Antonio, thank you so much for sharing a bit of your story with us.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the opportunity that I've got to connect with you during our talk today, and previously, just chance to catch up and see how you're doing.
Likewise.
I cannot express how immensely proud I am of you. And just this week, I was with a group of first year students getting ready to start their first year at BGSU. And it's interesting you shared the one story about the advice I gave to you, because you are now my like exemplar of if you have goals in college, if you claim you want to do such and such, then I want to see that in your actions. I want to see that in your study habits or in your character. And so even just this week, you came up in class, and you're kind of that role model that I talk about and say, hey, if you want to achieve your goals, be like Antonio, because he's sitting there changing the world and doing his part for our community. And there's a lot of potential out there.
I appreciate that. And, you know, it was a long time coming, I'll say that. So, you know, it's nice to see where people start and where they end up, especially when they have good influences and, you know, people that are personally invested in their success. So I'm glad they have you there, because, you know, you helped me get to where I am. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate it. So, well, have a good one, Antonio. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, we'll see you later.
Bye.